So I guess I'm going to do something different because one of my pupils I teach asked me to do footwork, and so I don't know, I'm just going to ramble. There's probably going to be a dog in the background that wants some pets, but that's okay. I'll get to him later. So one of the people that I teach kind of sort of asked about footwork and things he can do. Mostly what we discussed was the 45-degree shift. That would be me either going backwards 45, and so I guess I can kind of mark it right here. We can just kind of assume that's a punch or some sort, kind of drawn up into this center line area here. You can either do that, or you can think about it as like a curved blow, sort of in this kind of direction. Coincidentally happens to be 45, same here, 45, or it can even be an upward 45 into a hit. That just so happens to replicate sort of any kind of downward hit, or even chops, or maybe someone grapples, because whenever you grab someone's neck, sometimes you kind of shift into a 45. If you want, you can kind of pull that pressure this way. It's another conversation. But for footwork wise, I guess the best way to put it is we like to, not just we, but we in general, martial artists, like to take 45 steps, like in that direction, that direction, that direction, that direction. Some people think about it getting off the line. Some people think about it getting off the tracks. Some because they like to put things in like the shape of their body. Kali sort of does it. Wing Chun does it because Wing Chun has the gates and stuff, and Kali they utilize 0-point pressure, like the tip of a stick, so to speak. So like if someone's coming down this way, they're thinking about how to manipulate the tip of this stick because it's the one that's the easiest to manipulate, especially at this fine point right here. But they like to take 45 steps, maybe to get out of the way to evade like a stick that's coming this direction. So that's how they would utilize it to dissipate the pressure from the stick. But notice they're taking that 45. You can take the 45 with this my right foot, and that way you can step off the line. You can possibly pivot with your left foot and get that 45, because sometimes that happens in boxing or even Kali, because in boxing, what they sort of like to do sometimes, like they'll pivot to hit through the guard, and then they'll use that to flurry or something. Lomachenko actually uses it kind of a sort of way whenever he's backing gloves out of the way to, he'll like hook their gloves and he'll smack them. He'll do it both directions. He'll just sit there and pivot. You'll notice that also just looks kind of sort of like wrestling. That's because wrestlers, they'll sprawl this way into a 45, and so they can check someone's body down. Or, like I said, in Kali, it's to dissipate pressure. Wing Chun, they like to shift and they like to go forward with it, kind of doing some stop hitty type stuff. Some people go forward and it's good for bridging that gap with your legs. It's easy, it opens up the crotch area so you can just kick it. But for sure, in grappling, it's really useful for like shifts. Say you're doing like some form of shift, like this is on their lower body or like this area here, so that you can get to stuff. If someone's throwing a punch, it's like the most evasive and proactive way to get to your opponent, because not only are you getting off this line here, you're still really close range, and so you can still hit. And it's one of the faster ways to do it. Whereas if you just back up, the opponent, one, is chasing you, and two, you're gaining no ground. But sometimes it's useful to back up, because if the opponent is coming forward, I can just pivot off right here and do like a view style thing. That's just sort of a habit. But to pivot off the line and to hit, and even Kali does it. Kali will just bridge past this way. Shini does it sort of whenever they're doing like some of their drills and they're going forward. You can see it in like one of their fire drills where they do sort of this sort of thing, and they're doing this, but that's a whole soldier line type thing. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guys do it, and so do grapplers and pankration and sambo. That like for if they want to get like a leg pick of some kind, they'll use like a pivot to the 45 here, so they can grab a leg and pick it up. Sort of that's the idea. But this 45 shift, it can be used in kind of multiple different ways. just because of stylistic reasons and like Celtic jacket wrestling, and even like pankration and other judo type stuff, they like to shift 45 in, I guess, with their butt, and so that's how they can get like the hip throw. Is they're actually shifting 45 into someone. If we assume this is like this little tip here is like the center line of someone, and their legs are somewhere like right here, and like on the outsides of it, they'll take like an arm or something and they'll shift their butt to the 45 here, and they'll take a step either forward to try to cement that weight to go 45. Really, if you can master, I think 45-degree angles, you can sort of do about damn near anything in terms of footwork and almost any hand technique. Really though, one of the beneficial things is being able to move 45 in multiple different kinds of ways. Being able to shift your feet, heck, even the boxer shift so you can get up into range maybe. Not just doing it backwards, but being able to shift forward maybe. I know I like to do this shift forward because I like to get between people's hands so I can come through the middle of it. Sometimes 45 shift upwards and sort of like a Shomon thing in Wing Chun. You can take this 45 this way and then take another 45 this way. It's really good for jamming. Obviously that's 1Z, 2Z, and so you kind of want to eliminate all those steps and processes. So you may want to just do it all at once, that way you can kind of jam up on someone. Kali will do it too, so they can jam up like a baseball bat, say like a baseball bat. It's sort of coming in this direction here. You might want to take that step so you can use 0 point pressure, the tip of the bat, then you can guide it, and then that way you can manipulate it in some way to either disarm it, I don't know, jam it, whatever you feel like. You kind of get what you get. You don't actually usually get to choose in a fight like what you're going to do. But if you want to utilize like forward motion, some useful things that you can like think about is the yo-yo sort of in Kali. Other people call it different things. That's just where you're taking your weight from one heel, dropping this heel here, and coming back up on this heel. And I'm able to just do stuff like that. And that you'll see fencers kind of do it. They power off this back foot so they can stick this way. But that's useful, say if like someone's coming towards you and you might want to just narrowly be missed by a fist or like a hook of some kind. It's useful when you're bobbing and weaving and stuff. It's useful just going backwards. Bobbing and weaving is great. There's times when I can't use it because I'm the tall guy and it goes into their hook range. So, because I'm 6'1" or 2, and if I'm ducking down here, this is usually about someone's hand level, and you know, a quick right or a quick left or something, it could suck, for sure. I know I really like to pivot off of things, and so that's why I like to do this 45. I do like this half one because I'm like in half teaching mode, but sometimes I really like to cut this way. Is because I'm using not only 0 point pressure, but I'm also using like a bar type thing, like I have their wrist or their elbow, and I'm trying to guide their weight. Oftentimes where opponent wants to go is where I let them go. I let them quote unquote win. Because why fight a force? It's just more effort for you on your part. There's some utilization you can do, sort of like, I'm trying to think, like if you think about the yo-yo, like this bouncing up off the heel, sometimes that's useful for like bringing up your hands. Sheenie sort of does it, but they also do like this hip tuck this way. They sort of go this way so they can bring their hips up. You'll see that in like their wood fist. That's how they sort of use that elliptical motion to bring their hands up. And you can use that in a reverse, like you could do like a downward drop, or you can do a forward lift or an elliptical forward lift sort of thing. To one, bringing up your hands, or like say you have someone's arm and you want to arm drag it down, you can do that, or then you can drop into a sprawl. Sort of a lot of options, but what makes that more and more useful is whenever you use these footwork like type things, these 45 degrees in these directions. Really 45 degree changes, like I know like I'm static right now, but like say this person just moves this way, I now have to shift to like the more I guess like beneficial 45 degree angle. You can do it with a lot of hand bypasses. See, I'm shifting 45. You may want to shift past it. If you want to prevent someone from gaining their footing, you can say step between their legs this way. See, I took my 45 this way. I would obviously be covering and hitting, and then I can continue on my onslaught of attacks sort of just by shifting 45. And if I keep shifting 45s, it usually upsets footwork. Some people get the effect where they pick up their body sort of like this, and that sort of makes it more difficult. And so you'll get that chasing effect that some Wing Chun guys like. Some people, they like to be on top of them. That way they're chasing them, but they're going in a sort of a downward angle. And so they're doing like these pressing sitting moves, sort of, in like a 45 degree to keep their bodies slumped down just so you could hit them. But it just sort of depends on like what you want. I don't really have a preference. Some of my students say like I like to press. Some people say I like to lift up. I think that just depends on body type or like what their strengths are. Because if someone's bigger than me, I want to kind of uplift them so they can't use their weight. But if someone's smaller than me, I'm going to try to press them down so they can't use their speed. Because I mean, there's thousands of guys that are faster than me, stronger than me, and blah blah blah, and so on and so forth. But really, just you want to be able to do 45, 45, 45, 45, or you can just do like some variation of that, and you can kind of play with it, see where you can shift your 45s to, see what you have kind of best in your angle. You'll see me, like I like to do these downward motions or like elliptical motions sort of. Sometimes I like to I guess whenever I shift this 45 here, I like to be able to move my hips in different directions sort of to gain power, or maybe one to pull weight this way and then have their weight coming into me, and then I power my blow this way. So I might like do a lop sao from Wing Chun, or I might do some clasping technique from some form of wrestling. But I try to combine that with like some Jeet Kune Do-esque like popping and stuff with my like hips and with my ankle here. Like, and by popping, I guess I mean I drop my heel here and I use that as like a springboard, and then I'll throw my hips this way. But that's only like an option because of footwork. So I might like pull their weight here, and then I might shift this way with my hips and try to hit up in the face or something. Just sort of depending on where my hands are. Or I might do this, shift this way. Instead of taking this upward like uppercut, like the shovel hook here, I might take it here and I might take a step. Or I might do something of like Puta Kapala or do some Silati type stuff, or heck, some French boxing stuff. Because even in French boxing, what they like to do is take these 45-degree steps so they can, spear toe you in the chest or something. Or they use it to hook the legs. Even in like Thai kicking, when they do this shift, most of the time it's in a 45-degree angle, and it's so that they can load up that leg to try to take out like either a lead leg or just a base in general. Really whatever they can get. I mean, they don't really have a technical preference. But mostly you'll notice that it's just at 45-degree angles oriented around someone's spine usually, and like how their weight's carried. And so their spine can even be in like this sort of angle, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't affect it like a straight up pole. It just kind of like, and what I mean by like straight up pole is like imagine someone's spine just like sort of floating there like this, which is kind of weird, but it's sort of a helpful little thing. But on that turn, you have to remember that center line is still center line if you're going through someone's arms and then body and so on and so forth. Really any angle, but if you're pressing that, then you're probably upsetting their balance somewhere somehow, unless they can just readjust it. 45-degree angles also help. I guess it's more about 45 than it is footwork, but footwork is really all that too. But being able to pivot off of like a blow is important too. And notice I'm taking that 45, so it's like a glancing blow. Muhammad Ali did this sort of with his chin turns and stuff. He just took those as like glancing blows, and he used that to set up things and sort of box people. You see a lot of this in just Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu too, because you'll see like a sprawl or of some kind. I call it a sprawl at least. Or they'll use that to wrench out the hands, and they kind of draw the letter D is what it looks like, sort of like this way. And that's because they're wrenching out their hands and they're pulling. But notice what they're doing is they're going to take this 45-degree right here, sort of this way, and they're drawing the hands as they're doing their like projection outward. But they're drawing it that way, and so that they can do that, maybe do an arm bar, and you can kind of pull their knee up and sit on it, because you can take that 45